A trading bloc is a group of countries that come together to promote trade by reducing or eliminating trade barriers, such as tariffs and import quotas, within the group. Three of the major trading blocs include the European Union, the EU, the Association of Southeast Asian Nations, ASEAN, and the United States-Mexico-Canada Agreement, USMCA, formerly known as NAFTA. Before we take a look at those three major trading blocs, let's review some key terms that you need to know. Preferential Trading Area, PTAs. This is a type of trading bloc where member countries agree to reduce tariffs and other trade barriers on certain products from other members, but not completely remove them. PTAs offer lower trade barriers for specific goods or services within the group, while keeping regular trade rules for other goods and non-member countries. For example, ASEAN has a PTA with China. A free trade area, FTA, is a group of countries that agree to remove tariffs and trade barriers on most or all goods traded between them, but each country maintains its own policies for non-member countries. In an FTA, members trade freely with each other, but each country can still set its own trade rules for countries outside of the group. For example, the USMCA, formerly known as NAFTA, has a free trade agreement between the US, Canada, and Mexico. A customs union is a trading bloc where member countries remove trade barriers between themselves and adopt a common external tariff for trade with non-members. Countries in a customs union trade freely with each other and set the same tariffs for imports from outside the union, creating uniform trade rules with the rest of the world. An example of a customs union is CARICOM, which is in the Caribbean Community and includes 15 Caribbean countries. A common market is a type of trading bloc that allows for free movement of goods, services, labour and capital. Capital we're referring to here as money, between member countries along with a shared external tariff. In a common market, not only are goods traded freely, but people, services and money can move across borders without restrictions. This requires deeper integration. The European Union. The EU began as a group of 6 European countries in the 1950s and has expanded over the decades to include 27 member states. It's now 27 member states following the exit of the UK in 2020. The EU facilitates trade and economic cooperation among member countries by removing trade barriers such as tariffs and quotas. Over time, the EU has grown in membership and scope, moving from just being an economic partnership to a union that includes political, legal and environmental cooperation. The EU operates as a single market, allowing for the free movement of goods, services, capital and people. The EU also has its own currency, the euro, used by 20 of its member countries, the Eurozone. Its institutions such as the European Commission, European Parliament and European Court of Justice ensure common policies and laws. The EU promotes economic cooperation, reduces the risk of conflict and represents a major force in global trade. Association of Southeast Asian Nations, ASEAN. ASEAN is a regional intergovernmental organization formed in 1967 by 5 founding members: Indonesia, Malaysia, the Philippines, Singapore and Thailand. Over time, it has expanded to include 10 Southeast Asian countries. ASEAN promotes economic, political and cultural cooperation among its members to improve regional stability, economic growth and social progress. A key goal of ASEAN is to establish a free trade area called the ASEAN Free Trade Area, AFTA, which aims to lower tariffs and increase trade between members. ASEAN has made progress in regional integration, especially through initiatives like the ASEAN Economic Community, which seeks to create a single market and production base for the region. ASEAN plays a key role in promoting peace and cooperation in Southeast Asia and acts as a diplomatic force in regional and global issues. The North American Free Trade Agreement, NAFTA, now known as the USMCA, the United States-Mexico-Canada Agreement, the North American Free Trade Agreement, NAFTA, which came into effect in 1994, was a trade agreement between the United States, Canada, and Mexico. It was designed to eliminate most tariffs on products traded between these countries. It was designed also to promote trade and encourage economic cooperation. NAFTA created one of the world's largest free trade areas, significantly increasing trade and investment among the three countries. However, critics argue that NAFTA caused job losses in certain industries, especially manufacturing in the US, and contributed to environmental and labor issues in Mexico. In 2020, NAFTA was replaced by the United States-Mexico-Canada Agreement, USMCA. The USMCA kept many of NAFTA's core elements, but updated provisions to address new economic realities, especially in the digital economy. It also included stronger protections for intellectual property, labor rights, and environmental standards. Notable changes included higher rules for auto manufacturing, where more parts must be made in North America to qualify for zero tariffs, and improved protections for workers in Mexico. The USMCA aims to modernize North American trade while addressing some of the criticisms that NAFTA faced over its 26-year history. Factors to consider in trading blocks. When operating within a trading bloc, businesses must consider several key factors to maximize their advantages and manage risks. These include where to produce. Businesses need to decide where within the trading bloc they will set up production. They need to consider labor costs. Countries with lower wages may offer cheaper production costs. They need to consider infrastructure. Access to good transportation, communication, and energy networks can impact on production efficiency. They should also consider where to sell. Businesses in trading blocks benefit from free trade within the trading bloc, so they can sell products more easily across borders. They should consider the market size. Countries with larger populations or higher purchasing power, such as Germany in the EU, may offer bigger markets. They need to also consider consumer preferences. Understanding local tastes and cultural differences is key for successful sales strategies. Businesses also need to consider how to enter a market. Sending goods directly to the target market may work for some businesses, but it requires navigating local rules, and they need to be aware of these rules and regulations. They also need to consider the business strategy. Operating within a trading bloc may require tailoring business strategies to take full advantage of the bloc's structure. Businesses within the trading bloc may benefit from economies of scale by producing more goods at a lower cost due to larger, unrestricted access to markets across member countries. They need to consider localization. They may have to adjust products to fit the cultural and regulatory environment of specific countries within the trading bloc. Opportunities for businesses in a trading bloc. Firstly, larger market access. Trading blocs offer businesses access to a larger, unified market without trade barriers like tariffs. This helps businesses grow by selling to a broader range of consumers. For example, the EU allows businesses in any member country to sell their goods across all member states without additional tariffs. Secondly, cost savings. Free trade within the bloc reduces costs related to tariffs and custom duties. This makes it cheaper to trade between countries. For example, businesses in ASEAN benefit from lower tariffs on intra-bloc trading, reducing export and import costs. Another opportunity is simplified regulation. Regulations and standards are harmonized, simplified across the bloc, making it easier for businesses to comply with rules in multiple countries. For example, a product that meets EU regulations can be sold in all EU member countries without additional adjustments. And finally, access to labour and resources. Businesses can take advantage of the free movement of people, labour and capital in a trading bloc. This makes it easier to hire skilled workers or access resources from different countries. For example, European businesses can hire workers from any EU country without needing special visas or permits. However, there are drawbacks for businesses in a trading bloc. Firstly, there's increased competition. Free trade within the bloc means local businesses face greater competition from businesses in other member countries. This can lead to price pressures and reduced market share for domestic companies. For example, a small Spanish company may struggle to compete with larger German firms when both have equal access to the same EU market. Another drawback is compliance costs. While regulations may be harmonized, simplified, the same, complying with new, more stringent rules can increase operational costs, particularly for businesses from countries with less strict standards before joining the bloc. For example, businesses in Mexico face stricter labor and environmental regulations under the USMCA, which increase their compliance costs. Another drawback is that businesses may become too reliant on the trading blocs market and struggle if economic conditions within the bloc deteriorate, limiting their ability to diversify internationally. For example, businesses that are heavily focused on the European market may suffer if there's an economic downturn in the EU. And finally, loss of sovereignty and control. Domestic businesses may face challenges if their government loses control over certain trade policies, as decisions are often made at the bloc level, which might not always align with the local interests. For example, EU countries must follow trade agreements negotiated by the EU as a whole, which may not perfectly fit in each country's specific needs. Thank you for watching this video. The next two videos that will appear on the screen are what YouTube thinks you should watch next.